What's going on, everyone? Chris here with Clutter Reduction Junk Removal. I got a good one for you guys today. Comment down below if you ever walk into a house, see that, it makes you pucker up a little bit. As a mover, I hate moving them because they're so fragile. They suck to pack, and oftentimes these side panels can break out just from pressure alone, not even to mention taking it down. Now, here's the thing. Could you take this down solo, by yourself? That is what I'm going to show you that you could do if you're on your own. The one thing it requires is that you have space in front of it. So at this house, for example, there's a dining room table. Luckily, we were taking the table. If you are able to move something out of the way, do it. If it is something that may cause damage to the floor, moving it by yourself, don't. But if you are in the situation where, yes, you can move something and you have the space, you can take this down by yourself, and I'm going to show you how. The first thing that you need to do is take any shelves out. I don't care if it's glass shelves, if it's wood shelves, it does not matter. This is the reason why. Yes, it is junk. If it were to fall and break, nobody cares, absolutely. But you're in somebody's house. Number one, anything breaking in general you don't want to have happen. Doesn't look good. The second thing, and this is what I think about, let's say a glass were to collapse, break one of these side panels, glass goes all over the customer's house. Glass isn't the easiest thing to clean up. You may think you got it all, and then all of a sudden a week later, the customer steps on a piece of glass and they got to sit there and dig it out with tweezers. You don't want that person to think, oh, the fucking junk removal company broke all that glass. You don't want that to have happen, especially when you're by yourself. You need to be confident when you're taking stuff out by yourself. You don't want to go there always jeopardizing potential damage, because it's not going to look good, and if anything does go wrong, you look really bad. So you want to be confident in this process. And it doesn't matter if they're wood shelves, glass shelves. This had pretty big glass shelves in it. We took them out. Wouldn't even think about moving it otherwise. It doesn't matter if it's junk removal. You're doing it for safety. Now, I'm going to show you step by step how I personally take these down by myself. And yes, I put it up there by myself. I'll show you that afterwards. But the first thing after you take the shelves out, the second thing is to take off the brackets on the back. I'll show you really quick. Now, most of these, because it's such a tall freestanding piece, have a little bracket on the back. Usually it looks something similar to this. It might be a double hole. It might just be a single little piece of crap. Sometimes they're just sitting there and they're not even actually fastened in. But either way, you don't need to take them both off. You can just take the one off. I would recommend in this situation, take it off so that the bottom is attached to the bottom piece. You don't want this to hang on this top one, because this is going to be eventually sitting on the floor. You don't want it to land down and have this poke the wood and, cause damage. Now, for this procedure, you're going to want 2 to 3 pieces of equipment. Number one, a four-wheeler, assuming you're ground floor. If you have stairs, slightly different situation. We'll talk about that another day. But you want a four-wheeler because you're going to be putting this thing on top of it. You want a blanket or a good piece of cardboard, something you can sit down on the ground to prevent floor damage, and I'll show you why in a second. And then the last thing is either a moving band, tape, shrink wrap, string, something to wrap around that so the doors don't fling out open on you. So right now I have a moving band. I'm going to wrap around it. Whatever I'm doing with this band, if you don't have one, use tape, shrink wrap, string, whatever. Now, the next couple of parts are very important. I'm going to explain it, even though some of you don't like me talking. I'm going to explain it because a lot can go wrong in the first step. And I want to thoroughly make sure that we all understand what's happening. I am going to explain what we're going to do before I do it. Now, I am essentially going to grab one side of this. I am going to pull it around this way while keeping the other side intact with the piece itself. By the way, this is much easier when you have a perfect rectangle. This is actually a little bit more challenging by having this here. But if you have a rectangle, you're good to go. So we are going to be shifting the piece sideways, setting one corner on the ground, aka onto the blanket, going back around, grabbing the other side, swinging that around. When I come back around, I will sit it on the dolly so I don't have to pick it up again. So The main thing you need to watch out for here is as you are turning this, you have control of both sides. One hand should be on the bottom, one hand should be on whatever side is likely to tip. You should be holding that. So you'll notice that when I'm lifting it. And then as I mentioned with the blanket, you're gonna have to figure out where your point want to be. This is a driveway, so it's a little harder to shift the pad around, but if it was wood, carpet, or tile, you can move it with your foot to get it perfectly. I'm just gonna have to eyeball it a little bit here. But I want my four-wheeler to be close to me, and I want the pad to be my target spot. I am going to grab one side, shift it over, sit it down on the blanket, grab the other piece. As I swing around, I'll move the dolly over with my foot, set it down, and then we will roll it back onto the truck. As I mentioned earlier, this is a little bit of a trapezoid piece, so it's actually a little harder. If you have a rectangle, you can keep this on the edge. You're gonna see me kind of go more in the middle, which is why the blanket's so far over. If you had a rectangle, you could do the exact same thing I'm doing, but keep it on one corner. It's gonna be a little easier for you. But this is a good example in case you have a piece like this. All right, I want you guys to pay attention this entire time. Notice I will never let go of the actual piece and walk away from it. The whole time I'm shifting it over, I personally have to get past that little trapezoid point. So you're gonna notice I'm gonna kind of shift it more towards the middle. Right here, if you were to pause this right now, if you had a rectangular piece, you could leave it the way it is. You're gonna notice I'm shifting it more in the middle because I have to get past the angle point. Like I said, I'm lining it up with my pad. You gotta kind of eyeball it from the beginning. I am going to control the piece. I have my right hand where the front of the glass is because that's the point that's more likely to tip to the forward or tip down. Set it down nice and gently. I'm controlling both sides of it. Nice and easy onto the pad. If you have to shift the pad, shift the pad. Now I'm going to grab the four-wheeler. I'm going to line it up. I'm on a drive with a little bit of a slant, so it's not perfect. Grab the other side of the thing, swing it by. That's what the pad is there for. Right now, you'd be digging into whatever floor you had. Line up the dolly with your foot, set it down nice and slow, and that's it. And just like that, you brought down a piece that most people get nervous about. Now the next piece, you could either tip it over on its top and put it on a four-wheeler, or you can grab it with a hand truck I am. If you want to use something to tie off the doors so they don't pop out just like that, you can. I'm just doing this for demonstration purposes. I'm already outside, so I just didn't want to spend the time doing it. The reason the four-wheeler doesn't go underneath, though, is because there's no back edge. So if you were to sit on a four-wheeler on it, it would want to kick backwards, and that's how things fall when you're not paying attention. So hand truck in this situation is the easiest. And I would just take it out just like that and throw it onto the truck. Easy peasy. And that's it. You literally are just shifting one piece off, setting it down. The main thing is, number one, check for chandeliers around you. Make sure you're not going to hit anything. The second thing, have something on the ground to put the piece on so you're not digging into tile or hardwood floor. You're keeping control of the piece the whole time. If you start to notice it shift a little, if you notice, I had it sitting on the corner a little bit and it started to tilt a little. I caught it. Don't rush these things, especially when you're by yourself. You do not want to do something stupid. If this were to slip out of your hand and smack the ground, it will likely cause damage, and you don't want that to happen. It's not just you got a couple of indents. If that hits tile, you're probably going to break a couple of pieces of tile, and it's not just as easy as just pulling up a tile and pasting it down like a paver. Replacing tile is a big, big deal. Same thing with hardwood floors, especially if it's real hardwood. So make sure you have control of the piece the whole time. You're slow, you're careful, you're setting it down, you're walking back over. You can even keep a hand on it as you're walking to make sure you have constant touch to it so you're connected. And then pull it back down, move the four-wheeler, set it down, roll it away. Now, if you were going downstairs with it, slightly different situation. You can bring this downstairs by yourself. It is not the easiest. I have done it once by myself. You could slide it down if you wanted to. There's nothing wrong with that. But there are some things to kind of keep in mind. So the first thing is, if you're going downstairs with it, what I would personally do is sit the side on the hand truck and then run a ratchet strap around it horizontally. And then in addition to it, like I talked about in the video with moving heavy bulky pieces, I'll tag that somewhere up here. Either run a strap going long ways up and around the piece and I'm holding on to it, or you can run it with either a hump strap or a ratchet strap. But the objective with that is you can hold the piece upwards and control it from leaning forward too far, which could throw off your center of gravity while you're going downstairs with each step. So that's the main reason for that. And then having the ratchet strap attached to the hand truck just helps prevent it from kind of leaning away from you, so you don't have to constantly hold on to it with one hand. You can put all of your force into the strength of holding the dolly itself. So that's the reason for that. Now, you would essentially go down very slowly. And when you get down to the landing, you set it down, you can shimmy it with the hand truck on it, and then you can continue on with each step. You have to go slow. Or, I had one of these before and it was really fucking heavy. Like, I was nervous taking it down, and I've done it before numerous times. Like what I just did now, it was a perfect square piece, but it was huge and it was solid wood. It was heavy. I was not comfortable going down with the hand truck, so I set it on the edge of the stairs, went to the bottom of it, and I walked it down backwards to kind of pin my shoulder into it. Think like a football player when you drive into someone, except you're doing the opposite. You're walking backwards, but you're letting the piece lean into your shoulder. You just want to make sure your neck and your face is clear of any glass in case it were to potentially break. Obviously, that wouldn't be good. So you would walk down with it. When you get to the end of it, you would kind of just do a little shimmy, shift it over, repeat the process. So it's doable. It just doesn't look as good to people looking at you, but that's where it's good. That's junk removal. You're not moving somebody. So I hope I gave you guys an idea as to doing these by yourself. Please don't do this if this is like your first week in junk removal. Please have done this for a while and be comfortable with it. Do everything I tell you to do solo with a grain of salt. Like, I've been a mover for a few years. I've done a lot of these things by myself for a while. I'm comfortable and I'm confident in doing it by myself. If you're not that confident in your abilities, do not attempt it on your own because you have to. Bigger pieces can cause damage when they fall. You don't want damage to occur, especially something that can be significant like that falling. That dropping off of that 32-inch dresser piece, smacking the ground, causes a big mess, and it can cause a lot of damage. You don't want that to happen. So if you're in that position, give it a shot. Next time you have somebody with you and you have one, try it on your own and just have them there as backup. So if it starts to shift, they can grab it real quick, but at least you can practice with someone there to help you out if needed. And then if you're ever in that position again in the future, then of course you have some understanding of how to do it. So I hope that helps, and I hope you guys don't have to do these things by yourself in the future, but if you do, hopefully this will give you guys an idea. But that is it for now. Thanks for watching. Bye.